From where do you think, Stan, that these people that have these transpersonal experiences or mystical experiences get their information?
Get the reformation?
Their information. In contact with what, or with some, or the collective unconscious, and from where do you think they are in contact with?
Well, the traditional perspective is that the universe essentially is made of matter. The only thing that really exists is matter. The evolution of the universe is the evolution of matter, which is inert, passive, reactive, blind. And that somewhere after billions of years, in a very insignificant part of the universe, then life somehow originates spontaneously without any guiding intelligence, just by bouncing of atoms, combining into molecules, and then organic molecules, and then organic matter organizes itself into cells, and then you have this development into multicellular organisms, where somewhere the central nervous system develops, and then way up in this evolutionary line, supposedly this miraculous thing happens that matter develops consciousness, becomes aware of itself, which if you think about it and if you look at it, is basically a metaphysical assumption. It is not a scientific statement, never was. Nobody has ever been able to test it or document it. It is a basic metaphysical assumption. So the idea in this kind of thinking is that the psyche, is a product of matter and exists in a very, very limited part of the universe, which is basically inside of human skull. If some primitive forms of intelligence exist in higher animals, we wouldn't call it psyche. Now, this is a very different image from what emerges out of the non-ordinary states of consciousness. Those observations support something that was formulated by Carl Gustav Jung and his followers, that the psyche somehow permeates all of existence. Our individual psyche is kind of teased out of the universal psyche. We are part of the universal intelligence. That the whole universe, all of creation, is following an intelligent blueprint. The universe is an intelligent creation. It's not that there is the psyche is nowhere except the human skull. It actually, you can think about the universe as all being about consciousness, as all being about psyches, being permeated by intelligence. And so in these transpersonal experiences, you would be getting the information directly from this large matrix, from different aspects of what Jung called anima mundi.
And why do you think people have so few or seldom access to that consciousness? It's because of the defenses, because of what keeps a person so distant or not being constantly in touch with that consciousness?
Well, I think you would be surprised actually how frequent it is that people have the access. But if we live in a society that puts pathological labels on these experiences, that there are many people who have the experiences and can somehow manage on their own, that they keep it for themselves, they don't tell anybody, and just go through these transformative experiences silently. And if they integrate these experiences well, they also develop a sense with whom they can safely talk about those experiences. And they just select people with whom they just never bring up this topic, because they know that those people couldn't understand. And the last people with whom they would talk would be psychiatrists and psychologists, because these people already know what the conclusion would be. They know the position of current psychiatry, that these experiences are not normal. So that's one thing that I think until we have a very open and receptive attitude, we simply will not have reliable statistics. Actually, if you follow, let's say, Gallup poll, about the incidence of mystical experiences, it's constantly growing. And it's very interesting to think about the reasons for this. Is it really that more people have mystical experiences, or are now people more willing to talk about them? You know, people now talk about all kinds of things they didn't talk about. You have, in the United States, I don't know how it is here, but in the United States, people go on talk shows and talk about incest in the family. You know, they talk about their alcoholism and their drug addiction, which was inconceivable before. So there is just more honesty, there's more openness. And also people feel that the atmosphere is changing, that more and more people are now taking a different perspective on these experiences. So it's either, you know, much more of these experiences are happening, or more people are willing to talk, or both.
Or both.
Now the other thing that I would mention in relation to your question is that it's not that difficult for people to have those experiences. We used to work with psychedelics, you know, which are seen as very powerful psychoactive substances. But in the last 20 years, Christina and I and many people whom we trained are now working with very simple means, like a little faster breathing, evocative music, and body work. And we see practically daily people having powerful mystical experiences in workshops, in seminars, in our training. So I mean, if all it takes is a little faster breathing and listening to music, we are not that far from those experiences. But again, you know, people have to lose the fear of them and lose the fear from the societal retaliation and the professional sort of suppressive measures before they are going to be willing to open up to these experiences.